Welcome on into the Stroke Limit Reach podcast. I am your host, Nick, here with my co-host, Mike. And this is episode 2 here today. We've got an interesting one for you guys. Obviously, we're going to start off with the NFL draft recap, winners and losers, possibly sprinkling some diamonds in the rough that we believe could turn out to be great players. Going in after that, we'll have the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs, Rory securing a win down in Louisiana, and then obviously the best one of them all, the best bets. I mean, best one for everyone except for us with our bets last week, but we'll talk about that later. Let's get right into the juicy stuff, the NFL draft winners and losers. So obviously a really interesting draft. I'd like to start off saying I would say the majority of teams this year actually had a well thought out plan, and there is a ton of winners, way more winners than losers, I'd say, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, in outlook, looking at this draft class, I'm sure you can say it's almost every year, but this looks like one of the more talented draft classes we've had in a good while. Like you said, most of these guys came out as winners. I think there was just a large pool of talent to go through, and I really only think a couple of teams really found a way to botch this one up.
Yeah, and I believe here I've got 3 winners I've got on my end that I'd like to share. Starting off first, though, I got an honorable mention, not part of my 3. I honestly think New England had a pretty good draft. Their team needs, obviously, you could say quarterback. Personally, I don't think it's that big of an issue. I know you have some thoughts on that, not having a quarterback. They're ready to move on. Obviously, offensive tackle, wide receiver, guard, and safety. So they start off the draft not trading away their pick and getting Drake May.
Yeah, for the Patriots, my big issue with them is that team and that roster right now, excuse my language, it's just an absolute clusterfuck. Their O-line is subpar, which they address some of the needs for it, sure, but they have no weapons on that offense, and I don't think they drafted a wide receiver until maybe the 3rd or 4th round, and it's not even one of the guys I was super big on.
They've got the second round pick, the 5th overall in the second round. Jalen Polk from Washington.
He's not one of the guys I was super big on my board.
Honestly, my favorite picks for them, just right off the bat, is first round, the 3rd round, and the 4th round. First round, you got Drake May. Hey, if you're not going to trade away your pick, you might as well take him right off the bat. So I like that pick for them. And I really like the offensive tackle, Caden Wallace from Penn State, big guy. Definitely a need for the New England Patriots is offensive line everywhere. So I like that pick, and then go right back into the 4th round, taking a guard from Texas A&M. So I do like those 3 picks. And then one of the worst picks I think they have is Joe Milton, 6th round pick, the 17th pick in the 6th round. Honest to God, I think this is one of those situations where you see NFL GMs and coaches and scouts get too caught up on measurables and not game film. Because the guy looks like a beast out of pads. He's intimidating, 6'7", big dude, strong arm, but really put nothing on film, and the fact that he can still get drafted, I think, kind of proves this.
Yeah, watching his game, I remember there was some crazy stat about Milton. It was like whenever he's on the run, when his feet are not set, when he's moving and he tries to make a pass, don't quote me on this, I might butcher the percentage, but I want to say he had less than like a 18% passer completion rating while on the move. And from a quarterback like Milton, who's got a crazy arm, and his arm is as gifted as anyone out there, and for his build of being able to be mobile, like, you have to be able to put 2 and 2 together. You can't be an absolute reliability on the move as a mobile quarterback that just can't get the ball to his receiver. So I think he just struggles a lot there, and I think the pick was more so based that they were terrified of Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi, that they had to just make sure they got 2 guys that they felt like they could trust.
I kind of think that after picking up a second quarterback, you're going to think that they're going to trade away at least one, right? Yeah, they got 4 on roster.
Mac Jones is already gone.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, Mac Jones is gone.
Okay.
He's playing for the Jags now as their backup. Bailey Zappi, I can't quote if he's still on the roster or not. I'm going to say no. I don't think they had –
okay.
I want to say they didn't have any quarterbacks on their roster.
Okay. So, yeah, Joe Milton, I know he's from Pahokee, Florida, I believe, and then went to Michigan, where it did not work out there, and then landed at Tennessee. So let's let you start off this time since I just had my honorable mention, and you let us know your that doesn't have to be the first, the best, winner of the draft, but give us just one of your draft winners.
Yeah, I mean, the first team that I have on here as a draft winner is a team that I personally hate. I despise. They're not my least favorite team, but they're on the list. They're probably number 2 or number 3, but it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Some needs
I
that
did not expect this.
As much as I hate to say it, like they absolutely found some fucking beautiful pieces in this draft.
Shout out! Is this who's a fan of them? Matt?
Yeah, a couple of the Ohio guys. So I have to hear everything about them. But I mean, team needs that they absolutely needed to address. Like they got their quarterbacks that they hope work out for them, and that's Russell Wilson and that's Justin Fields. But despite that, obviously they're not looking for a quarterback this draft, right? We will find out this season if they work out or not. But I mean, their absolute needs was tackle, guard, I think wide receiver, because they need someone to pair up next to George Pickens. Because if George Pickens is your guy or not, you need someone else besides him.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if he takes off this year. Is it? I think it's just kind of lack of. I wouldn't really say it's his fault though.
No, I mean they had multiple issues last year when it came to the offensive coordinator position. I don't even need to go into that. And quarterback with
it was Matt Canada to start off with, who, honest to God, I don't even know how he got to the NFL because he sucked. I mean, he had one okay year at LSU.
Yeah, I mean, I can say it's probably safe to say he's not going to get another offensive coordinator job anytime soon in the NFL. You better hope a college team pities him enough. But, I mean, between him and Kenny Pickett, who just wasn't the guy, as much as everyone wanted him to try to be the guy, he just wasn't it.
Is that fake slide? Is he fake slide guy?
Yeah, he's fake slide guy.
Okay.
Absolutely did not like him. Did not like the pairing. They couldn't get anything done. So, hope they don't have to worry about that anymore, hopefully. Fingers crossed for the Steeler fans. But they started out the game, and they picked up Troy Fatanu over in Washington. It's like a guard tackle hybrid. I wasn't in love with this pick, but he can fill out the position that they need. From what I saw, is they're trying to move him over to tackle, permanent position, to be alongside. I can never think of his name, but the Georgia tackle they picked up a year ago, who's been very good for them. So maybe they got the other tackle spot figured out. And then they just addressed the O-line heavy. They picked up center Zach Frazier over in West Virginia. Again, wasn't in love with it, but it was a need they had to fill out. I thought there were better centers available, but hey, you met a team need. Where I kind of do love their draft was round 3 and round 4. They got Roman Wilson from Michigan, a guy that really just, he was their passing offense. Whenever they didn't have to throw the ball much because obviously everyone knows that they just handed the ball off to Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum all season. When they did dish the ball out, this was their target.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see by adding him, you've got 2 probably, I would say, we'll see how they work out in the NFL, but on paper, 2 super high-end receivers to get the ball to. Obviously, hopefully, we'll see what happens offensive coordinator-wise and how they can scheme it together, but they should have some big target options, big play options out wide.
And then on the defensive side, I mean, they already did a lot of work in the free agency. They picked up the linebacker from the Ravens, struggling on his name at the moment, who's probably already going to be good, but let alone then they found a gem, in my opinion, was my favorite linebacker on the board, Peyton Wilson from NC State. I mean, granted, yeah, he has a lot of injury issues that he's had in the last couple of years. Man doesn't even have an ACL to walk on at this point.
I think it's Anthony Everett is what you're talking about.
The linebacker?
I believe former Raiders and then Raiders and then Ravens defensive back.
No, I'm talking about the linebacker from the Ravens. He's like third-year player. I'll think of his name here soon. But Peyton Wilson, who, when healthy, I mean, I think that dude's an animal. He runs so instinctually, beats up the block, and he's always in the position to make the tackle that he needs to be in. I'm a big Miami fan, so I got to watch him every year he played.
Was it Deshaun Elliott?
No.
No? You sure?
Yeah.
Deshaun Elliott 2-year deal?
I'm sure.
Okay. Swing and miss twice. Got to try.
Yeah, just look up offseason moves by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I mean, Peyton Wilson's going to be absolutely fantastic for him. I don't think he's going to get the starting role, but when he comes in rotation, like he's going to be a beast. But besides that, I mean, they picked up Mason McCormick from South Dakota State at a guard. He's going to be a kind of a project guy there, but he absolutely can develop into something. And I was seeing a lot of Logan Lee. I don't know much about him, but the D lineman from Iowa, interior D lineman.
Oh, Patrick Queen.
He
used to play for LSU. Big dog. Yeah.
Patrick Queen. I think he's going to be a monster on Pittsburgh. But Logan Lee over in Iowa, I've been seeing so many good things about him. I guess he has some medical issues, but outside of that, I guess he was a beast on that defensive front. And I mean, I'm not going to deny what everyone else is saying about it, but they're absolutely one of my winners. I thought they met almost all of their team needs. I would have liked to see them get another corner to pair up with Joey Porter, who absolutely was phenomenal last year. Because besides that, they had Patrick Peterson, who was kind of letting them down, and I forget what the other corner's name was over there. But it was clear that was just something that they could use. It wasn't a top need. But, I mean, they fixed a lot of their holes in this draft, and I was very impressed.
A lot of pickups in the free agency, as you're talking about, for defense. Patrick Queen, big ad for the Steelers here. Then Dante Jackson picked up for corner. Deshaun Elliott for safety. Miles Kilbrew for safety. And Montarius Adams for D-tackle. Now, just a little bit before we move on, let's talk about the Steelers a little bit. They got an interesting situation coming up. Obviously, there should be a little bit of a quarterback battle between the two free agents.
So I don't think there will be.
You think it'll be straight Russell Wilson?
I think that's the only option you have right now.
You have Justin Fields, too.
See, but Justin Fields, I get he has a lot of promise to him. He's coming from a very unideal situation over in Chicago, but he has not been able to perform at that at all. He's also on the last year of his deal at this point.
He did pick it up, though, for that 4-game stretch and played really well for him.
I disagree. As a quarterback, I don't think he did. As a rusher, I mean, he was absolutely performing, but I mean, outside of hitting his targets of DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, I feel like the situation improved a lot for Chicago from last year and the year before, and he still just didn't make that step in the right way. Granted, right now, with what Chicago's done in the offseason and the draft alone, swap Caleb Williams out with Justin Fields in that situation, I don't think there's any way that he doesn't perform.
And so, obviously, with your, more NFL knowledge than myself, coming about these players here, so you're saying you think it's Russell Wilson's job to lose?
Yeah, so Russell Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback coming in day one. And
you think there's a chance that Justin Fields, if Russell Wilson doesn't,
Russell would have to shit the bed. He would absolutely have to shit the bed. He would have to underperform or get injured to let Justin Fields get that opportunity. From what I've been seeing, it looks like they are not going to give Justin Fields a rookie extension for the fifth-year option, which is available to him. Next year, he'll be by all means, an unrestricted free agent. And from what I've seen, that the Steelers plan on probably trying to sign him.
Yeah, it's a 1-year deal right now for 1.2 for Russell. So could be an interesting thing, and love to see how that's going to play out this season.
Yeah, I mean, Russell's getting close to that retirement date for him, so he's either going to ball out with the Steelers and he might continue, try to get another 1 or 2 year deal after that, or this could be his curtain call. But we'll have to see.
So we'll go over to my first winner of the draft. I want to say Arizona Cardinals. I think they had a hell of a draft. Obviously, they had 11 picks, so a ton of opportunity to pick up some new good players. But even with those 11 picks, I'm pretty sure they hit on almost all of them. I mean, right off the bat, taking Marvin Harrison Jr., arguably, in my opinion, one of the best players in the draft. That's a huge pickup for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, Marvin Harrison is, in my opinion, one of one when it came to skill in this draft class. I don't think there's another receiver or even another player like him that performed at the level he did at the college game. Like, he looked like he was pro ready his first year starting at OSU.
Yeah, and he had for his standards, a little bit of a down season last year, but I don't think that's really him as much. It was every defense in the entire nation keying on him, which opened up a lot of opportunities for Ohio State, but also their scheme in some of the games were kind of questionable. So.
Yeah, they changed their offensive scheme this last year just on the change of quarterback play. I mean, they didn't have their Justin Fields. They didn't have C.J. Stroud anymore. They had to play with, I'm going to struggle on his name, the quarterback they had last year that transferred over to Syracuse. I mean, he wasn't awful, but he couldn't do the same job that those other guys were asked to do.
He arguably offensively lost them the game against Michigan. He didn't really do much to lose them the game, but he didn't do anything to win it.
Exactly. He didn't do anything out of the way to help them win. He kind of just kept them steady with it. And I mean, like you said earlier, every defense was going to key in on Marvin Harrison because they know he's the one-of-one threat right now. So he did have a down year when you come to stats and everything, but if you watch his play, it still is mesmerizing as ever. Like, that dude, he would ball out anywhere in any system for any team.
And then building on that, they also had another first-round pick, and I like the pick from Darius Robinson from Missouri. First-round pick, 27th pick overall. I think he can come in and help them right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, the Cardinals, the issue they have is they have more holes to count right now when it comes to their roster and their team. But to counter that, I mean, they have all the money in the world outside of Kyler Murray's contract, which I'm not very big on Kyler Murray, but others would disagree. And they also had a plethora of holes, of draft picks to fill these holes, and they did absolutely that.
And obviously, I think their second biggest hole was the secondary as a unit. And in this draft, they took a cornerback in the second round, Max Melton from Rutgers. They also took another cornerback in the third round, the 27th pick, Elijah Jones from Boston College. Then turned right around in the fourth and took a safety from Texas Tech. And then their last pick in the draft, the seventh round, Jaden Davis from Miami. So they did add a bunch of secondary, pieces that they can play. I think the cornerback from Rutgers and the cornerback from Boston College can come in and make an impact right off the bat. So big pickups for them there.
Breaking news, completely unrelated to football. Mike Trout has just been reported that he has a torn meniscus and has no timetable for return.
No way. So I know we were talking about at the beginning of the season, obviously before we got our first episode. Mike and I were talking about what are the best bets, future bets for MLB, and I took Mike Trout under on hits. They put him at 120 hits, which in the betting world is the maximum amount of hits that a player is allowed to have for an over-under. So in all seriousness, Mike Trout, full season, healthy, you can see him probably get to that 128, 135 range, even higher if the dude has hell of a season, one of the best hitters in the MLB when he's healthy. But I know one of my best bets for the future was hit the under because Mike Trout can't stay healthy. So here we go. He's already having a great season. His first at-bat against Baltimore on opening day was a home run to spark that game, even though they lost. And the Angels, honestly, in my opinion, are kind of overperforming for what I thought they would do after losing Ohtani. So interesting to see how that hurts them going forward. And now that future under bet is looking better and better.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely called that one.
So do you want to give us your second, or do you want to kind of snake this, and I'll go right into my second winner?
Go back into your second winner.
Okay, so second winner, this one might be a little controversial. We'll see what you say, but I like the Rams. I think the Rams also had a good draft. You have the D tackle. What the fuck's the guy's name? He just retired.
Aaron Donald.
Yeah, Aaron Donald, arguably probably one of the better defensive players of all time on the D-line, especially running that interior three-tech position. You lose him, so what do? They come right out with the first pick, or the first round, 19th pick overall, Jared Verse from Florida State, then turn it right into the second round with the 7th pick and get Brandon Fisk from Florida State, D-tackle. So two guys that can come in and start immediately and play right next to each other that already have the chemistry. Love the first two picks by the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely early on one of my winners. I don't know if I'd have them as a winner overall. I thought they did great with their first two picks, with Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, like you said.
I love, personally, their first 5 picks. I know you do not like their third-round pick, but hey, third-round pick, 19th overall in the third round, Blake Corum from Michigan. Do I love Blake Corum as a running back? Jury's still out on that one. I do think he was a little bit overhyped at Michigan. However, when you have the third round and he's the 19, you're sitting at the 19, he still hasn't picked up. It's kind of a best player available kind of situation.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I personally just don't like that pick because their running back room last year was good. It was not a position of need. I think it was definitely a case of potentially best player available. But, I mean, it's not something you need with the third round pick. I feel like there were better items to address. And I'm also a little biased for it because I have their starting running back in my fantasy draft that we do keepers with, and Kyron Williams, who balled out last year when healthy. I was hoping to keep him again, but now Blake Corum's make me gotta think about it for a second.
I can't wait for one of our future episodes. We're going to do an entire episode when the season gets closer for fantasy. Usually, my takes for fantasy are god awful, and I'm always at the bottom of our league. But last year, at our company, we had a 20-team draft.
An absolute shit show.
Shit show, but I did pretty well on that, so that's going to be a fun episode. But going down the list, right into their fourth pick, safety, Cameron Kitchens from Miami. I think that's a huge pickup in the third round. I love that pick. And then going right into their next pick, which is not until the fifth round, get another edge rusher, Brennan Jackson from Washington State. So I do love their first 5 picks, and I think it's going to help them a lot.
I mean, I'm a big Miami fan, and I love Cam Kitchens. I wish he would have stayed another year. But his big thing is I don't think he's a day one starter by any means. He's definitely a project player, and he could be very good in the NFL.
He could definitely come in and help right off the bat with nickel.
Yeah.
But, your nickel situations, third down and long, bring him in, get another safety on the field. He's fast. He's a bigger guy.
He's a bigger guy, and he likes to hit.
Yep,
his big issue is when it came into coverage, like he has the most interceptions out of any college DB over the last 3 years, I believe.
I think
However, he was a gambler, and he gave up just about as many big plays off those gambles as he took away.
And again, I think that's something that you kind of see, though, coming into the NFL. I mean, I'm sure that they can fix that, right off the bat. Just like, hey, man, you're an absolute talent, but let's tone it down on some of these gambles here. Playing a safety, you gamble and you miss, it's a touchdown. So
yeah,
absolutely. I think they could definitely fix that for him. But, I mean, even in this, it's a great pickup, in my opinion, because now you've got an option if you're the Cardinals, in the NFL where you're more pass heavy. I'm sorry, for the Rams. Preface that again, but I think it's a great pickup because if you come in on these nickel downs, you're not really hindering, a third down draw run or third down, to the boundary run where you're like, oh shit, they've got us a nickel. We've got to make a tackle for the first down. Cam Kitchens can come downhill and make that tackle with being a bigger guy.
Yeah. I mean, with Cam Kitchens, again, big Miami guy, I thought he had a pretty all right floor, but his ceiling is through the roof. He can absolutely be an absolute animal in the NFL. He just needs a little bit of that development to kind of help him put it all together. So he's a good project player, and in the long run, he could be very beneficial to that team.
All right, Mike, who's your second winner?
So my second winner is I'm going to go Homer here, and I'm going to pick the Giants. Longtime New York Giants fan, and I know some other Giants fans will disagree with me in that how we needed a quarterback, and for those guys, I call you all fucking idiots.
Well, at least before we even get into your picks, I mean, I don't think the Giants are a winner, but I don't think they're a loser. I think they're kind of just sitting in the middle, middle of the pack. But it's not the end of the world because I do think you'll still have a good quarterback class next year where you can pick somebody up. So it's okay if you don't take one. You still have Daniel Jones, so I don't think that's that big of a issue. So
yeah, well, what Giant fans like myself need to realize is we're not in a win now mode by any fucking means. We have a ton of young pieces, and we are in rebuild mode. Next year, I'm not expecting us to go and make a run for the playoffs, let alone make the playoffs. But if we can just make sure we get the right movement pieces in, and if Daniel Jones doesn't get it all together, they've absolutely bolstered the O-line in the free agency period. I believe we signed 5 new offensive linemen. All 3 of them were past starters on other teams that performed very well. So we should have the protection needed. What we were missing was a number 1 wide receiver because for all of Daniel Jones' career, his best receiver has been Darius Slayton. And I know you're a big Auburn fan.
And it's a crazy thing, too, because Darius Slayton and Auburn didn't do much, and that was kind of a scheme thing. And as an Auburn fan, when you see him go to the NFL and make some of the plays he has for the Giants, it kind of pisses you off. But I think he's a good piece, and I think he has given you guys some good play, but it's not.
But not as a number 1 option.
I agree. Definitely
he cannot
not
be the number 1 guy. He's
it's
great off the slot,
play.
Great off the number 2, deep threat kind of guy, but for your every down, we needed a player like Malik Neighbors. He was the perfect pick for me. And there's no point in drafting a quarterback if you're just going to put him in the same situation of an average O-line to no weapons on offense to give the ball to. He's just going to go out there and look terrible. And that's where I think Drake May, who I'm super big on, is going to have an issue with in New England next year. But after that, we picked up Tyler Nubin from Minnesota, who I was super big on. He was high on my board. Debatable, I think he's not, if he's not the number 1, he's the number 2 safety in the class. He has all the pieces together. The only thing he lacks is top-end speed and physicality measurements. But, I mean, when it comes to his instinct, his coverage, even his fucking going downhill and hitting someone, he's all around the best guy, in my opinion. So we lost Xavier McKinney this offseason. He went over to the Packers, and I think he's going to be a great guy to go step in immediately and replace him. For the third pick, Andrew Phillips over in Kentucky. A little bit of a project player, but I do think he's at worst, he's going to be our nickel corner. Our corner 2 is a position that's kind of been up in the air. We have a couple guys that can absolutely fill that spot, but obviously you want to get better. So that's 3 potential day 1 starters. And round 4, we picked up Theo Johnson, who I thought was a top 3 tight end of this class. He fell all the way to the 4th. With Darren Waller's retirement kind of hanging in the air of is this dude going to retire or not, or is he even going to be fucking healthy for a year to play with us like he wasn't last year, he's going to be a guy that's going to come in and get significant playing time. So I thought right off the bat, our first 4 picks are guys that could easily become day 1 starters after OTAs.
So you want to go to my next one now? You got anything else to add?
Let's
on
continue
the
the snake. So
Okay.
after them, I kind of had 2 teams. I had the Ravens, but I'm kind of going to skip over them. I just thought they made some fucking fantastic picks early, and specifically with the 4th round and Devontae Walker. To me, I think he's absolutely screams first-round talent. He just kind of got fucked over by the NCAA.
Yeah. I mean, free Dez at one point, and he comes back and has a great back end of the season, the last 8 games. But I like that pick too.
Yeah, I'm super big on him, but I'll move to my actual winner that I have here, and that's going to be the Jets. The Jets, they started out the gate getting a new offensive tackle, which I'm sure everyone can remember play 1 of last season. Aaron Rodgers drops back, their tackle fucking butchers a play. Now your franchise quarterback or guy that you're trying to get your win now with, I guess. Can't really call him a franchise because he's 40 years old.
Definitely win now.
Like, he tore his Achilles because your tackle decided to chop block when that was not at all what he needed to do in that situation. And the O-line just in general last year was in shambles. So they picked up Alu Fashanu over at Penn State, who I thought was, personally to me, he was the number 2 tackle on the board. I had Joe Alt at 1. I thought Alu was number 2. Then after there, they got some wide receiver help. I'm not too familiar with this guy, but Malachi Corley over in Western Kentucky. I don't know if you have any input on him. I'm unfamiliar.
I didn't follow them that much, so I haven't followed them since Billy Zappi was there and absolutely just lit it up and set a bunch of records. So
fair enough. Following there, they got Braylon Allen. That one was kind of a question mark to me. Super, super talented running back, but
yeah, and I'm curious to see though. He's kind of a slower guy, kind of a ground and pound talent, and I just don't know. Jury's still out with me on that one, just because in college he had a ton of good numbers, but then again, he also played for Wisconsin, right? Mm-hmm. And he had, that scheme is just absolutely hand the ball off 40 times a game and rack up 1,700 rushing yards. So jury's still out. I want to see if he can do it in the NFL. He's going to have to prove it for me.
Yeah, and it looks like they're probably going to be doing a running back by committee because they already have a couple of talented young guys on that squad, so we'll have to see how they do. But the pick that I really did love is round 5, Jordan Travis. You just traded away Zach Wilson, so you need to look at your QB of the future.
And
obviously,
very slept on.
Obviously, you weren't in love with Zach Wilson, which reasonably so. I mean, you gave him a couple opportunities and he couldn't perform. So you move on, you get Jordan Travis, who I think only fell down this far because he broke his leg to end the season. I mean, every year in college, Jordan Travis has gotten improved and shown that he can be a next-level player. And, I mean, before he got hurt, that's what we were watching. That's what we were witnessing over there in Florida State. And, shit, I mean, when you're telling me that this quarterback's injury was the only reason they didn't make the playoffs, absolutely, you'd say this dude has a lot of upside.
And in my opinion, you could not have a better situation, being the Jets here, having Jordan Travis come in, still going to be in rehab for this season, probably won't be able to play at all, practice much at all, but he's going to be able to sit there and take in all of this knowledge from one of the best quarterbacks of all time with Aaron Rodgers. And it's almost like a situation where you have Garoppolo sitting behind Tom Brady. So curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say even more recently, Aaron Rodgers over on top of Jordan Love, and you see how good Jordan Love did last season with the Packers when he took over. So we'll just have to see, but it's absolutely a great mentor ride there, and you can smooth transition over to your next franchise guy when Rodgers does decide to hang it up.
Which, depending on this year, this might be his year.
If
he comes out and he has an amazing season, he might hang it up.
Yeah, I'd have to look at his contract, see how much longer he's on deal, but, I mean, this could absolutely be his last year.
Before we move on to my next winner, I'd just like to say, as a Jets fan, could you see the Jets have, obviously they have loads of more talent now than the Giants did a couple years back, but could you have a situation where you could see the New York Jets making the playoffs?
So, I mean, they're still in a division that has the Bills, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. Like, obviously, the Dolphins right now have to be one of one in that division if you're making any guesses on how the season's going to do. And with the Bills losing as many people as they did, I think they're a wild card on how they're going to perform. I still think they might come out as a number 2 team up there. But, I mean, with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, who knows how high the ceiling could be for the Jets. Like, that was the biggest question mark that we never got to see.
And not to mention, though, I do think the Jets in that division, with the Dolphins being as good as they are and the Bills being, not saying a wild card spot, in my opinion, but a wild card team in the fact that we don't know if they're going to come out and be the Bills that we know or come out with all these losses and not be a great team. But I definitely think at the minimum, the Jets can come out and fight for a wild card spot.
Yeah, I mean, right now, if I were to put money on it, I would have the Dolphins end at 1 in the division, Jets at 2, with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. Bills at 3, Patriots at 4.
And in my opinion, my next winner here is a team that, if you haven't bought their stock now, I would buy them again. They just, in my opinion, keep getting better and better, and it's all based on these free agency pickups and the drafts the last couple of years. And I'm going to the Eagles. I think the Eagles had one of the best draft days, in my opinion. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, again, as a Giants fan, they are on the list for teams I hate more than anything else, especially the city of Philadelphia. I can't stand any sports team from Philly.
And what would you say, in your opinion, what held the Eagles back? What position group held the Eagles back from winning a Super Bowl?
It was the defensive backcourt. I mean, so they performed great 2 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl, but that final play came from one of their corners who got a penalty that I still think is debatable. I don't think that flag should ever be called. However, I mean, that lost you the game, end of the day.
And the Eagles have proved that they have some great draft technique. A couple years back, they were struggling defensive line. What do? They basically pick up the entire monster front of the University of Georgia and come in, and they all start immediately and play great. Got a linebacker from Georgia. Next year, got another D lineman from Georgia. So they've proven that these guys, their first probably 3 rounds, they can come in and play immediately. And what do this year? They start off immediately with a cornerback. Love that move from them. Second round, right into another cornerback. So you got 2 guys. And the second round pick, in my opinion, was a guy that I was surprised that slid into the second round, and that was Cooper DeJean from Iowa. So I think that was an amazing pickup from them, going from the 22nd pick in the first round with Mitchell from Toledo, and then going right into the 8th pick in the second round with Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, I mean, with them, that was the thing that hindered them all last year is they struggled when it came to covering the pass. And before December hit, because they hit that absolute December slump that was just all around offense and defense, they couldn't get anything going correctly. With a healthy Jalen Hurts coming back, they losing Jason Kelce, and everyone wants to put a huge thing on that. Like, yes, he's one of the all-time greatest centers to ever play the game. But I think they can survive. Their O-line is still top tier with or without him. So they keep the protection on Jalen Hurts, keep him healthy, let him dish it out to the great wide receivers they already have in A.J. Brown and Devontae. You picked up Saquon, who you stole from the Giants this offseason, to be your running back 1 instead of DeAndre Swift. So I really don't know where the hole is for this Eagles team.
And jumping around quick to talk about the Jason Kelce situation, 5th round pickup, you take Trevor Keegan from Michigan, and Michigan proved all season, they're winning games with a nasty offensive line. So, and again, the NFL, you don't necessarily have to pick a center to play center. All these interior guys shuffle around. So now you add another piece where you can maybe put him in as a guard, or he can be a utility piece and plug in here and there if there's some injuries. But they've given themselves a couple opportunities to shuffle some guys around and try to fill that spot for Jason Kelce.
Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely in win now mode, and they've put everything they can forward to show that they are one of the better teams in there. Like on roster, on paper, they're one of the best teams in NFL.
And what is one thing that you can do to hide a terrible secondary? Not even terrible, just a below average secondary. Pass rush, right? They can't get the football out of the hands of the quarterback. It doesn't matter how bad your secondary is. So what do? They go in and they add a pass rusher with Hunt from Houston Christian, who obviously I don't think is going to come in and start immediately for them, but now it gives you that third down pass rush option where you can get some pressure on the quarterback. And again, when you have the Eagles front, you don't have to have a world beater edge rusher. If you can just get if the quarterback to step up in the pocket and you got Jordan Davis and the guys that are driving the interior offensive lineman back into the face of the quarterback, now all of a sudden kind of limits where you can throw that football.
Yeah, and they even doubled down on linebacker as well. Jeremiah Trotter in the 5th round, who was an absolute steal. He was higher on my boards. He was one of the dogs that were over there in the ACC, and he was balling out against every team he played. So having him there, and then sneaky 6th round, Jonnu Wilson over from, or is it Johnny or Jonnu?
It's Johnny Wilson from Florida State.
Yeah, the 6'7" monster who you're going to have him come in as a rotational piece, but I don't know. I mean, dude was a baller over in Florida State, and just the fact that he's 6'7" and knows how to use his size alone is a scary thought.
And it's a recipe for success when you put Johnny Wilson in with who's the other big target?
A.J. Brown, and then
AJ
you got
Brown.
Devontae Smith over in the slot.
So now you got Devontae Smith you can slide in the slot, and you got Johnny Wilson and A.J. Brown. The red zone offense immediately gets super scary. You got 2 big targets you get the football to, and you've got a quarterback that can scramble and run. So now the defense has got to cover every man on the field.
Let alone, I'm pretty sure they still have Dallas Goedert over there at tight end. So, I mean, like I said, this team on paper is terrifying.
And I think I might spoil one of my gems, but I think the 5th round pick, Ainias Smith from Texas A&M, he had a below average year, but the year before he absolutely cooked for them. But again, it was kind of hard to tell. Did he have a down year? Just because of the fact that Texas A&M's coaching staff was so shit, and they couldn't get anything going with all of this talent. So I'm curious to see how he turns out. Another piece that they can rotate into this absolutely A-plus offense. So do you have one more, or are we going into losers?
I already kind of spoke about it. I thought the Ravens did very well all around. They picked up a lot of guys they needed, and I thought they set themselves up pretty well, but that's all I'm going to say for them.
Okay, so I believe you started off with the winners. I had my honorable mention that I said first, so I will go ahead and start off with the losers. And I think we probably have the same loser right off the bat. That's going to be the Falcons. I mean, I don't care what you did the rest of the draft. The fact that you absolutely butchered your first pick and you took Michael Penix, that you couldn't even get his name correctly. I mean, just talk about an organization that's in shambles. You fucking take Michael Penix Jr., you go ahead and you send out his player art on Instagram, and it's Michael Penix Jr. I mean, what are we doing as an organization here? Just totally in shambles. Curious to see if their GM gets fired at the end of the year. Interesting here. I mean, I don't really like any of their picks. I guess their 2nd and 3rd round picks were okay with D-tackle Rook, what is his name? Orhoro or whatever from Clemson. And you've got Braylon Trice from Washington edge, which not a big fan on him, but you do need some needs on the defense side of the ball. But in my opinion, it's just the fact that you absolutely took, I mean, let's talk about the 1st round pick real quick, because I know we talked about it, but if you didn't have anyone that you liked besides Michael Penix, why not just trade back and maybe pick up another 1st round pick or another 2nd round pick? Or, I mean, there's just so many options they could have done there, but I know we're just going to do a little touch and go on the Falcons because we've already talked about them, but just had to bring them up as my first loser. Who do you got? I
mean, so I'll continue off of that real quick. Like, you could tell the GM was panicking. Like, their biggest need on that team is defense. Like, their offense is pretty stellar. I feel like it could use a little bit of O-line help, but besides that, it's been pretty stellar on all counts of the board. And their next 4 picks you see is immediately D-tackle, edge, D-tackle, linebacker. Like, you can see, I think the GM kind of went into panic mode to try to fix his mistake, but at that point, the job's already done. I think he's absolutely in hot water, and if any of those other early round defensive dudes like Jared Verse or Leatu Atu go off and absolutely ball out and have a great year, I think he is 100% in danger of losing his job.
So who's your first loser?
So my first loser I have on here, I picked the Raiders. We already touched on them kind of early about their 1st round pick with Brock Bowers, who, again, I think is a stud, but to me, he's just not what that team needs, like, at all. I have their team needs as they need a quarterback, they need some tackles, they need some, like, O-line help in general. Like, they have more holes than needed to fill, and to waste your early 1st round pick on a tight end when you did the same exact thing last year and Michael Mayer, who kind of underperformed, but then again, not really in the right scheme. Like, They got a center in Jackson Powers Johnson from over in Oregon, who was solid again, but he wasn't my top center off the board going in. Then you picked up some more O-line. Like, just none of the picks that they did I was impressed with. Like, nothing. It was just a very boring draft. They kind of glazed over and tried to hit all their holes late and didn't get the value that they needed at those positions.
So going into my next one real quick, we'll touch on them just a hint because we already talked about them as well, is Dallas. You can see what they went for here. I mean, just looking at their draft board, you can see what they're trying to go for, picking up Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma with the first pick the 29th pick in the first round. And then in the third round, going Cooper Beebe for Kansas State. Those two guys are going to come in and probably start immediately for them. And then coming down to the 7th round, taking an offensive tackle from Louisiana. So you can see what they're doing. They're going to try to put together just an absolute monster offensive line, and that's what they did here in this draft. But again, there's no wow factor. I'm never going to sleep coming from playing football and being an offensive lineman. Offensive linemen are skill players, in my opinion. They are guys, and you can't win football games without them. But just, okay, so you build this monster offensive line. Who the fuck's running the ball? Zeke?
Just averaged for a 1-year
I think
deal.
he averaged like 3.5 yards a carry last year.
It was 3.5 or 2.5.
I think it's 3.5. Which
I believe he had more fumbles than he had touchdowns.
Yep. So it's just, I like what they did with the offensive line picks, but why not take a running back or take somebody to run behind these guys? I mean, I'm curious to see how it goes. I kind of think Dallas is going to have a down year, and in my opinion, this is kind of a make or break year for them. We've talked about them every single year as being a playoff team, and this is going to be the year they win these playoff games, and I kind of think this is where they're at the top of the mountain, and I think they slide down.
Yeah, I mean, the only pick to me that's a day one starter is Tyler Guyton over in Oklahoma, who's good, but you traded back for him, you picked him up, and then it was like, why didn't you trade up? You're in all in now. You're supposed to be doing what the Eagles do in win now mode, and there were better pieces available that you could have traded for, gave up assets to try to get to make your team whole, and you just didn't do anything to impress. Like, the second-round pick in Marshawn Kneeland is probably to try to get ready for when DeMarcus Lawrence leaves. So he's going to sit on the bench. He might get some playing time. He'll probably be a rotational piece. Cooper Beebe, he's solid. He wasn't very big for me. I don't think he's going to be a day one starter. He's, again, going to be a guy that sits and probably gets mentored over by the guard they have over there.
I'd be surprised. I bet he finds a way to get in.
He'd probably get moved in, but I don't think he's day one starter. I think they'll eventually start panicking when the O-line is in shambles again and put him in and see how he does. But this was just not an impressive draft at all. Like, they just seem to not really be in win now mode like they say they are.
And just before we move on, I just kind of think this is comical. I'm a huge Auburn fan when it comes to college football and all of college sports. Who the fuck is Justin Rogers? I don't even know if that guy, like, he must have saw the field to be able to get drafted. But Marcus Harris was the starting nose. Who the fuck? I couldn't tell you who Justin Rogers is. Like, I looked him up, was seeing highlights, and I was like, dude, who is this guy? I mean, I'm pretty good at knowing every single player on the field for Auburn, and I've never heard of him.
I think maybe it was like a special package, run stop only on the goal line type of guy.
I don't know. I mean, Marcus Harris, talking a little bit about college, had an amazing season coming in as a transfer from Kansas that no one really gave him any credit when Auburn picked him up, and everyone's just like, oh, here we go. Auburn picking up some D linemen because they've got nobody right now, and we'll see how it goes. Undersized nose guard, but he gets drafted because he had a hell of a season for Auburn. And I don't know who the fuck Justin Rogers is. I just thought it was kind of funny when I was looking at their draft board, but we'll move on to my last loser, and then we'll let you talk about your losers. I think we probably have the same loser, 49ers.
No, so I saw your list, and I tried to swerve away to give another take, but I do agree. I think the 49ers are losers.
Losers in the draft, still an amazing team. Like, still a great football team in the NFL. Still think they're going to have a great season this year, but Ricky Pearsall, that's your guy? Ricky Pearsall. I honestly didn't even have this. Like, there was no way. I thought he was going to be like a mid to late round second pick, and you take him in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that already last week. It's just a giant question mark right now with what they have at the wide receiver room. It's like they have Brandon Ayuk, they have Debo, they have great dudes, but from what our last reports were, they were open to trading both of them. Like, so what are they trying to do now? Are they keeping them and keeping Ricky? If that's the case, then all right, you got a solid core, I guess, but like what that's the thing we're just trying to rub our heads around is what are they trying to do right now with that offensive team? Outside of that, I mean, they need some D line to fill out because I don't believe Chase Young's on contract anymore. And they lost their D tackle. Like they just didn't really fill that many needs that they had, and it was kind of a question mark. Like nothing they did wowed me.
And I think your next loser, I assume you're going to the Dolphins.
So it's tough between me for the Dolphins and the Browns.
But personally, before you even dive into these teams, I think the Dolphins are one of those teams, we try to follow a little bit because we're in Florida, and I just don't think they ever really have a good draft. Like they haven't really ever had a great draft in the past couple of years.
Not recently. I mean, the only standouts I can think of is probably like Jalen Waddle. I mean, they got Tua, but obviously Tua is like such a question mark on if people like him or not.
I mean, that was a huge gamble. Tua coming off of a season full of injuries, and you take him. So it was a gamble, and it's worked out for them right now. I mean, when he's healthy, he plays great.
When healthy.
Yeah, when he's healthy, he plays great. But go ahead.
So for the Dolphins, I'll just quickly go over them real quick. Like, they got Chop Robinson, who amazing physical athlete. Like, absolutely, he has the tools to be very fucking good in the NFL. But he's very rough around the edges right now when it comes to technique or anything else. He's a project for sure. He's going to start day one, and I think he's going to get better with time. Like, his rookie year is probably going to be underwhelming, but give it about 2 or 3 seasons, I think he'll be one of the better edge rushers in the league. Outside of that, though, I wasn't in love with any of their picks. I mean, so in the 4th round, Jalen Wright over from Tennessee, I think he's one of the better, like, underrated backs, so he's probably a good pickup. Because right now you got Achane, who...
It is Achane.
It is Achane? Okay,
yeah,
I thought
Achane.
Everyone always pronounced it Achane. He performed very well. He had a couple injuries, which, I mean, running backs' injuries are going to come and go all over the place. Nothing to be alarmed yet. And he had Mostert coming off of almost what seemed like a career year, but he's getting up there in age. He's probably not going to be your long-time guy, so I wasn't mad with that pick. It was just everything else was just kind of boring. It's just you got a lot of depth. You got a lot of backup guys. I wasn't in love with any of their picks.
So let's go quickly into some recap of what happened over the weekend, starting with the NHL. And I guess there's nowhere else to start besides me having to apologize and say, wow, Dallas, I can't believe you went on the road and you won 2 in a row. I mean, you set yourself up where you were at an absolute, we're fucked, and we are the number 1 team, and we're going to exit fast and piss off our entire fan base, to all of a sudden, it's 0-0, 2-2 in the series, and they got a chance tonight. I mean, we're recording this on a Thursday. At 6:55 it is currently, so those games start soon. But, wow, I mean, round of applause. Clawed your way back, and potentially, now you've got a home game. Can you keep the momentum going and all of a sudden take the lead? And if you're Vegas, you just wake up and you're like, what the fuck happened? So that's a big one. Moving in, we've got Winnipeg. That is down currently to the Colorado Avalanche. Colorado Avalanche leads that series 3-1. If you're a Winnipeg fan, I know it sucks you're down 3-1. I wouldn't panic. You guys have played great in the series, and maybe a sneaky pick tonight. We'll talk about that. But Winnipeg, obviously, I would not go into panic mode yet, being down 3-1. But obviously, there is a little bit of concern. Going in next, we've got Nashville and Vancouver. Nashville, kind of that same situation, but a little more panic here. You absolutely blew it. The series could be 2-2. You were up 3-1, Mike, 3-1 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. What do? Vancouver takes out their goalie, goes to 6-on-5, open net, and they scored 2 goals quickly. But the worst part was Nashville, you get the turnover you needed. You go down the ice. It's 1-on-1. You're contested with the defender. What do? You shoot. You put it off the fucking bar. What are we doing? Why did he put so much heat on it? Just tap that bitch in. And all of a sudden, we're talking about this series as I like you guys to win it. Now, I don't think so. I think you're losing. And I think you bounce again. You get this whole nice fan base of the Nashville fans behind you, and you disappoint them again for a second year in a row.
All I could think about there is that Donald Trump meme where the lights, turn them off, turn them off.
Yeah, for it, the lights are out in Nashville.
Too bright.
I hope that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. I'm sure some people will send us that on Twitter if they end up coming back and win that series, but I just don't see it possible, especially now that you're going on the road for this next game. So Edman and LA, 3-1 in the series there. Kind of surprised with LA is down by a significant amount, and Edman, I see them pulling off. Tampa, great. You guys did great in Game 4. You did what you needed to do to get out of the sweep and more. You got momentum. You take it to Florida. You come out. You get the opening goal. Psych, goalie interference. Don't like the call. That could have been, the bias in me, but it didn't happen once. Happened twice in that game. 2 goals erased. You get beat 6-1. Florida, props to you. Still think they're the Stanley Cup winners, in my opinion. They're absolutely playing lights out. They've got a great defense, great offense, but they now move on to round 2, and they'll be playing the winner between Boston and Toronto. Toronto loses their last game, and they are down 3-1 after I think Toronto was my team, the big upset. I think they were going to be the big upset over Boston and take them down and move on to play the Panthers, and now their back's against the wall, and I think Boston has a chance to seal that tonight. So then to another team, actually the only team that was able to complete the sweep was the New York Rangers over Washington. Absolutely dominated the entire series. Props to them. They move on. Down to our last series, Carolina and the New York Islanders. I said it on last Thursday. I thought the Islanders win at home with the backs against the wall. They do, and they get the series back to 3-1. Carolina leading that series. Islanders, though, come out. You played great. You blew one early where you had the lead, kind of a Nashville situation, I believe, in Game 2. So down, but not out. Curious to see how they can come back here. Can they make it 3-2? They play tonight as well. So curious to see what happens there. But that's my quick overhaul of the Stanley Cup as we move on into the NBA playoffs. Mike, would you like to take that and give us the rundown?
Yeah, we're going to start out with the OKC Thunder and the Pelicans. Oklahoma City, they completed the 4-0 sweep. I mean, they absolutely were they dominated the Pelicans the entire series. Game 4, the Pelicans were able to keep it close up until probably late in the third quarter. Then you see OKC just kind of slip away. Like they just looked comfortable. The entire series, they looked comfortable. There was hardly a time where they felt like, there was any type of pressure. Pelicans, they were at a disadvantage losing Zion, but at the same time, it was just the Thunder. They're young. They are skilled. They can do whatever they want right now against some of these lesser teams, and it's absolutely shown that series. They will be facing the winner of the Clippers and Mavs series, which is currently tied 2-2. Game 5 is going to be this Wednesday. I believe the Clippers are favored in this one, going back over to their home turf. Personally, I got the Mavs taking this series, but this could absolutely go to 7. It's been very competitive. James Harden's been balling out. Luka's kind of been underperforming a little bit, but I think he'll bounce back. Like, he's been one of the past playoff absolute monsters the last couple years. So I think they'll be all right. They'll figure it out. They'll get the win away, finish off on the road. My projection, I think it's going to end 4-2, but this could absolutely go to 7. Then you got the Timberwolves and the Suns. Minnesota completed the 4-0 sweep. Anthony Edwards is just looking like another monster out there. He's absolutely solidifying himself as a top player in the league. The big question mark right now is for Phoenix is like, you got to blow up the team. You've spent all of your money getting Kevin Durant a few years back. This offseason, you traded away DeAndre Ayton, who's been underperforming for you guys, and a few years removed from being in the finals against the Bucks, and you guys have just gotten worse. You got Bradley Beal this offseason, who was supposed to be your next push, but at this point you got 4 great players on the team, and you just have 0 bench. You have no support. I called it last season when they signed Bradley Beal. they're going to be a first-round exit because they're not going to get the high seed. They are going to manage to get away with like a 5 or 6 seed, and they're going to play one of these better teams that have those role players, that have the support, that have better chemistry together, and not just 4 ball-dominant stars. So they absolutely just got beat up the entire time. It's another failure on the Suns roster, and the Timberwolves will play the Nuggets in round 2. Going into them, the Nuggets, they completed the 4-1 sweep over LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I didn't want to fuck up and say Anthony Durant again. So the big question mark is now it's 4-1. After our podcast, by the way, I made a very large note that if the Lakers want to win, they're going to need Reeves and D'Lo to actually perform at the same time and help out their 2 stars. What do? They put up 22 and 20 points. So it's like, absolutely, fuck you. I put all my money on the sweep to complete, and you guys managed to sneak one away, but didn't last very long. Jamal Murray, another game winner in Game 5 to eliminate them. He's just a bad dude in the playoffs. Him and Jokic are just something else. The current question mark, though, is LeBron James. Like, is he going to retire? Is he going to stay? Is he going to move elsewhere? He currently has a player option on his contract, and he's been going on about how much he wants to play with his kid because he's looking at possibly getting drafted somehow now this season. So does he go explore free agency and sign with whoever drafts his son? Does he retire this offseason? Because, like his recent quotes, it's just fucking basketball. Who cares? I saw a report today that the Lakers are trying to talk him into a 2-year extension, I believe, for the max possible. But we'll just have to see how that plays out. Moving on, you got the Celtics versus the Heat. I put a lot of money on the Heat getting a win at the first game home, and they got absolutely beat up. I then followed through and put money on the 4-2 for the Heat just to see I think it was like $50 to win 1,000, and the Heat just been getting bullied. It's 3-1 in the series. They can't keep up without a healthy Jimmy Butler. It's just kind of pointless at this point. Then after there, you got the Cavs versus Magic series tied 2-2. Both teams have just been winning all of their home games. Darius Garland's kind of been underperforming a lot. We'll have to see how it goes now moving back to Cleveland for a game. I think the Magic continue on the streak that they're on. They've been very hot. I think it was a 23-point win, just absolutely dominating. It was a close game and just absolutely shut down the Cavs in the third or fourth quarter to get a dominating win. I think they keep that momentum up, and I think they steal Game 5 at Cleveland, make it 3-2, returning back to their home court. So I have the Cavs getting upset in this series. Then you got the Bucks and Pacers. Giannis is out. He's not looking to return. Dame is out. He's not looking to return. You're down 3-1 already. I think Tyrese Halliburton and supporting cast just put the dagger in the coffin there to end it. If your 2 stars that you have just can't be healthy and can't be on the field, on the court, there's not much you can do. Knicks versus 76ers. The Knicks lead 3-1. It's been a very tight series right now in scoring. Like every game, I think, outside of one, has been within 5 points to end it. Jalen Brunson's an absolute animal. He needs a support to finish a series in 5. I think they gave 1 up in Game 4. And, I mean, we could be seeing the death of the process, as I like to say, over in Philadelphia. Joel Embiid can't put it together yet another year. They have not been able to make the final push. So what do you do there? Do you blow it up? Do you try to do some re-supporting cast? Try to rely on some of your younger guys that you have there? It's just a big question mark right now. And I think tonight should be Game 5, and I think the Knicks seal it away. And that'll be it for the NBA playoffs.
So after recapping the 2 playoffs right there, we'll quickly touch on this. PGA Tour Zurich Classic, a win from the guys who just decided in a bar one night after the Ryder Cup, you know what, hey, fuck it. We play pretty good together in the Ryder Cup. Let's do the Zurich Classic this year. What do? Rory McIlroy and Shane Lowry go out and win. Honestly, in my opinion, a great win by Shane Lowry with a weaker field. What does this do? He's been getting in to the big events this year on sponsors exemptions from his namesake only. Now he's guaranteed to play in all the major championships and guaranteed to the designated events. So great pickup by him. And Rory McIlroy, in my opinion, a much-needed bounce back after the disaster again that is the Masters that just continues to be the thorn in his side. He now has 25 PGA Tour wins with 4 major championships, and he joins a list of greats to have 25 wins with 4 major championships, being Sam Snead, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Ben Hogan, Arnold Palmer, Byron Nelson, Walter Hagen, Phil Mickelson, Tom Watson, Gene Sarazen, and Lee Trevino. So, might not be the greatest of wins for McIlroy, being a weaker field at the Zurich Classic, but a much-needed win, in my opinion, to get his season back on track. Curious to see how he finishes out the rest of the season. Maybe this gives him that boost of confidence he needs. Now, once we have caught you up on the PGA Tour, the NBA playoffs, and the NHL playoffs, let's do a little Stratton Oakmont here, a little Jordan Belfort, some penny stocks, some investing. Who are our diamonds in the rough for the NFL draft, Mike?
So some diamonds in the rough that I have here. A couple of them you've already heard me talk about. Devontae Walker, absolute fucking stud. Missed half his season because of the NCAA is just fucking trash. They need to disband it. They need to figure it out while still keeping college football pure. But, I mean, this kid, he's got elite speed and size. The dude's 6'2", fast as all hell. The only thing that you could probably try to look for is, like, polish his route running a little bit. Outside of those deep go routes, those deep posts and deep crossers, like, he did struggle a little bit in the short route game. But give him some time to work, and he will be a huge compliment to Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers on there.
Honestly, might be the biggest diamond in the rough pickup in this draft. So we've talked about my 2 first hidden gems a little bit already. I think Jordan Travis with the Jets, great pickup. Sit behind Aaron Rodgers and, retain all this information, heal from your injury. I think it's a great pickup by the Jets. And again, we talked about Johnny Wilson with the Eagles, another big play factor, another possession guy, big red zone guy. I think it's a great pickup from them. You got another one?
Yeah, so a couple that we've already talked about, like you just heard Nick talk about Jordan Travis. He was on my list. Peyton Wilson, I've already talked about him for the Steelers. But I have 2 that I haven't talked yet about. One, again, call me a homer. I do not fucking care. Round 5, we picked up Tyrone Tracy. He was a wide receiver converted to running back, so he only has 1 year of being a running back. And during this kid's time of being a running back, he's got the right size. He's 200-plus pounds. He's quick. He hits the hole hard. He doesn't dance around like you think a normal wide receiver would. He hits them hard. He has amazing balance. I think he was 4th overall in college football last year in yards after contact. He does not shy away from it. He will run through somebody, and his balance with the ball has been insane. The Giants recently signed Alvin Kamara's old running back coach over in New Orleans, so they could be utilizing him in a similar game, and I think he's an absolute steal, future starter when Devin Singletary ends up falling short or just as a combo back.
So I will go ahead and remove the Giants meat from your mouth so I can say the next pick is going to be Ainias Smith from Texas A&M, another Eagles pick, 5th round, 17th overall in the 5th round. I think, again, a great pickup, another guy who kind of just fell through the cracks because of a lackluster offensive performance last season. But, again, I do not believe it's his fault, and I think the whole sole purpose for him having a poor season was the scheme of Jimbo Fisher and the offensive coordinator that came over from Louisville. Bobby Petrino is his name. And so I think, again, another great pick. Do you have any more diamonds in the rough, or are those our guys?
Yeah, so not really a diamond in the rough of the draft because he's more so an undrafted free agent, but Cody Schrader to the 49ers. I talked about him last week. I thought he was the best all-around running back in the class. Everything I saw from him, he was just a pure runner that absolutely will run through any kind of contact. He does not care. His entire goal is to get to the end zone, and you have to put bodies and bodies on him to stop him. He ended up going to the 49ers. He's going to sit behind Christian McCaffrey. And, I mean, the only reason he fell, this dude is 25. He played all 5 years over at Mizzou, was a walk-on, ended up becoming the team captain. He runs like a man on a mission, and I think he will be an absolute dog coming off the running back committee.
I agree. I think he is a great pick up there, especially as a free agent. Don't have to pay him much and at least see what he's going to do on the field. So now into the best segment we've got here, the best bets, the hammers, the hot takes, the dogs. Quickly, we'll briefly recap how our Thursday picks did, and you can determine if you'd like to take these picks after this poor showing we had last week. Mike, each one of his bets, we wager $100. Mike with a $0 earned. There is an asterisk there for the 0 because you do have the Heat to beat the Celtics in the series.
Yeah, it's not.
However, I don't think it's going to happen. So I've got a 0 with an asterisk. Could change for Mike, which would put him big into the black here. But ultimately, 0% on return and down $300. So into mine, again, not a great week, but we're only $60 in the hole. We're 60 in the red. We can claw out of it this week with these picks. We have a negative 20% of return right now, but the Islanders, they did hit. We got them at plus, I believe, 140. So we earned 240 last week. We wagered 300. We're down $60. So all in all, they helped propel us there to hopefully get in the black with these next picks. So on to our best bets. Just so everyone knows at home, Mike and I do not know what each other's best bets are. So could have some double ups, could have some, some shit bets, I think, but we'll see how it goes here. So, Mike, give me your hammer.
All right, so my hammer last week, apologize, went a little too aggressive, had to make sure I hemorrhage it because it was personal, going to the Panthers, going into Tampa Bay, we're at the game. I knew Vegas was going to fuck me over. I had to break the curse. I had to take the L.
Why don't you tell the people, Mike, what you did while you're at the game?
Yeah, so I saw it was the 3 or 4-1 actually was the score. I thought back to last year against the Maple Leafs.
I think it was 3-0 at the time you bet, right?
No, it was 4-1.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I waited till it was 4-1. I saw the odds start climbing for the Panthers. I threw about $75 on them to win live. They came back 3-4. I had hope. I'm sitting here like I don't know what team to root for. Ended very quickly. Ended up being 6-3 final score. But anyway, on my hammer this week, certified lock, won't happen again. Trust me. I have a parlay of the Pacers -4.
No way.
Knicks -4.5. I'm tripling down on basketball plus 264 odds.
You come out. This man comes out and has a hammer bet at plus 260. That's more than my hot take bet.
Yes.
You're 100% on that.
Do better.
Okay, we'll see here. He might still have a 0 with an asterisk at the end of this week, so we'll see how that goes.
Gotta climb.
Okay, so after that crazy take there, we'll go into my hammer, and we're going to take the Boston Bruins to tonight. Money line, -165. I think they close out the Maple Leafs, and they take the series. So that is my hammer bet, -165. I think that's a great pickup. I think the spread or the money line at -165 is not too much, or you're not going to have a great return on your investment. Go and take Boston money line. Even if Toronto comes out and gets an early goal, hammer them again. Take the live bet. I like Boston tonight. I will snake it. I will go to my hot take now. Give me Winnipeg +100 tonight as well. Winnipeg should be better in this series. It should be 2-2. They have blown some opportunities. Give me Winnipeg tonight, +100.
So over to me for my hot take. I am tripling down on basketball. I got the Magic +5.5 tonight against the Cavs. Coming off a 2-game win streak. Currently, the odds for Magic +5.5 is sitting at -115. I think it's an easy bet. Darius Garland's not going to get out of his funk. Magic are right in the high. Honestly, I'll save it till my final. But Magic +5.5.
All right, Mike. Who's your dog?
My dog is Magic to win, and not only to win, but flexing them to cover the -2 spread at +200.
Wait, to cover the spread at -2.
Yeah, we're flexing their spread to -2, +200.
Ooh.
They're the underdog.
Dirty.
I'm flexing them to win by 3 or more.
And what are the odds on that?
+200.
+200. Okay, folks. My last bet, my dog. Give me the Stars money line. I know they're the favorite, but we're going to have a 2-leg parlay here. So give me the Stars money line. You go on the road. You win 2 against the defending champs. You come back. I think they got all the momentum in the world. I think they've found their spark. I think they go up in the series here 3-2. So give me Stars money line at home. And then again, this one's going to be a little controversial because I think they're playing probably the second best team in the Stanley Cup right now, in my opinion. I don't agree with Vegas. I don't think they're the first. I think the Panthers have looked like the best team. Give me the Islanders going on the road tonight, money line, Parlay those two together, plus 394. Big payout. We're looking for the big payout, guys. I like the Islanders. I think they go on the road now and they get it done. They're in the series down. They're down 3-1, but it should be 2-2. I like the way they're playing. They've got the momentum like they needed to avoid the sweep. Give them tonight. They come out. They need to start fast. They close the gap like we talked about on defense. So give me the money line to take down Carolina. Parlay them together, like I said, with the Stars, plus 394. Respectable. We'll see how that hits. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bury me. Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast today. We will go ahead on our Twitter page and post our best bets that we took tonight, as well as we're going to put our spreadsheet up there where you can see our return on investments and how much we've wagered versus how much we've earned. So, you guys can get a little confidence in us and be like, wow, Mike right now, he is in the black. He's on fire. Let's keep hammering Mike's bets. Nick, he's in the red. What the fuck's he doing? Stay away from him. So again, give us a follow on YouTube where all these podcasts will be as well. And hopefully some special content coming out of our end soon. So give us a follow on YouTube at Stroke Limit Reached. Give us a follow on TikTok at Stroke Limit Reached. And a follow on Twitter at S Limit Reached. That is at S Limit Reached. Until Thursday.
Before we actually head off, also, if you're listening, don't forget, comment, let us know what we can do better. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. Give us some feedback. We're here to improve. Anything that you think that can make this channel better, go ahead and let us know. We're here for it.
I like it. So peace out, everyone. Give us a follow. Give us a comment. Give us a like. It only helps the brand grow, and we've got a lot of interesting things coming forward for you guys.
Take care.